CS profession is a very fulfilling career. It is a fulfilling career in the sense that we have to exercise a lot of independence, we have to exercise a lot of diligence, and we also have to be very professional in what we do. Even as you handle that work as the General Counsel and the Corporation Secretary, you have to be sure and be very keen that everything that you do, you are bound by professional standards, and you cannot be exonerated because you are wearing one hat and not wearing the other hat at one particular moment.
Governance Voice, a conversation that seeks to help us broaden our perspective in leadership and help us make better leadership decisions. My name is Nyawira Kashuki, and I am your host for the conversation today. I'm joined by the lovely Diana Sawe Tanui. This lady has a wealth of experience in the Certified Secretary space and is the immediate past Council Chair of the Institute of Certified Secretaries. I'm extremely honored to have her here, and I ask that you join us and dwell deeply in the conversation because she has a lot to share. Welcome, Diana.
Thank you.
Yes, we are so happy to have you, and extremely honored because we would also like to know your journey. You know, you have been in this space for a while, but we would like to know, where did you start from, and based on where you are, how have you been able to see any evolution in this Certified Secretary space?
Thank you so much, Nyawira. It gives me great pleasure to be here to share my experience as a lady, as a young professional, and who is doubling up in roles, both in the governance space, in legal, and previously serving in my institute in the capacity of the chairman, the council chairman of the institute. I must start by indicating that the CS profession is a very fulfilling career. Okay. It is a fulfilling career in the sense that we have to exercise a lot of independence, we have to exercise a lot of diligence, and we also have to be very professional in what we do. And automatically that also translates into your personal life. Yeah. So in how you run your affairs in the family, in your personal plans as an individual, all these factors will seep through and you'll be able to see the same applied. So it's been very fulfilling for me. I started my career as in corporate secretarial from 2010. Okay. And I have been actively practicing for the last over 10 years as a corporation secretary. And I must say that this role has really evolved. Traditionally, we would look at a secretary as someone who would go to the meeting, take minutes, prepare for the board papers, ensure the directors have tea. But over the years, that has really evolved. Globally now, the corporation secretary, in other jurisdictions, they are known as the certified secretary. Other jurisdictions, they are known as the governance professionals. The role has really evolved. And this has come by because one of the basic things that happened during the financial meltdown in the 2008-2009, corporate governance was discovered to be one of the things that led to the downfall of very big financial institutions. And just the same way assurance, governance came into the limelight, and therefore this profession evolved. So it is no longer an issue of taking minutes, preparing board papers, but it is now an issue of advising the board on what their roles are, ensuring the organization lives up to best corporate standards and that ethics is adhered to by the organization. And all this actually lead to a very fulfilling return to the stakeholders, to the community in which the organization serve. And I think it is a very satisfying call to serve in that capacity. Yes.
That's such a well answered, and I thank you for even painting the picture of how far the journey has been. You talked about governance and also legal, right? How do you manage to balance the two? Because you have played the role in the two, whether you have been in the governance space or in the legal advisory space. How do you balance these two?
Okay, so this is a very delicate balance, because then what that means is you have to always remove one hat and put it on the table and put on the other hat. And when the time comes to address the legal issue, you have to put down the governance hat and put on the other hat. So it takes a lot of emotional intelligence to start with, because then you have to understand what role are you playing. This role can be very challenging because of 3 issues I can mention. Number 1, the issue of reporting lines. Number 1, as a general counsel or the person in charge of legal, you are reporting to management and you're reporting to the chief executive officer.
Yes.
When it comes to governance and the board, you're reporting to the board and you're reporting to the board chairman. And so there has to be a lot of emotional intelligence to balance, because then you see these are 2 centers of power. You're reporting up to 2 different centers of power. That means you have to be very emotionally intelligent so that you can manage those 2 centers of power appropriately while ensuring you are very professionally discharging your duties. And that takes a lot of emotional intelligence, just to be able to understand who you're dealing with, what are the issues, what are the priority agenda to be addressed, and what are the interests that are at play at any particular moment. The other issue is the issue of as a lawyer, you are treated as giving advice.
Yes.
You are the advocate for the client. In this case, the client is the organization.
Yes.
As the corporation secretary, you are not treated as an advocate. So the relationship can be different. And this has really evolved, because sometimes in 2012, we had a very important landmark case in Australia where a company incurred liability for actions that they took in the course of executing their mandate. And one of the persons who was found culpable was the company secretary and general counsel of the organization. So he was holding the 2 roles. But when he was found culpable, he argued before court that he was discharging his mandate not as an officer of the court, which ordinarily is the company secretary, but as the advocate of the court. You know, when you're dealing with your client as an advocate, there's advocate-client privilege.
Yes.
So confidentiality in terms of information that is shared, opinions that are given, is applicable. So he wanted to take that cover to say that he was dealing with a client and therefore he should not be held culpable. But the court was very quick to rule. This matter raised a lot of professional interest, and it went all the way to a high court, to a higher court in Australia. And the court said you cannot separate the roles, especially if it is held by the same person. You cannot say, now I am the secretary and now I'm the general counsel. So they said as long as you're carrying both titles in your name, you should be answerable for all the actions that you take, either as a general counsel or as a corporation secretary. So this is a very important lesson for us to know, that even as you handle that work as the general counsel and the corporation secretary, you have to be sure and be very keen that everything that you do, you are bound by professional standards, and you cannot be exonerated because you are wearing one hat and not wearing the other hat at one particular moment.
You know, it's interesting. You said something even before we get into the deeper conversations of your journey. You've talked about emotional intelligence. I mean, it sounds easy to understand, but there are people who really struggle with this.
Mm-hmm.
You have strength in it because your success is seen in balancing yourself in these 2 spaces.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that you have put in place so that this level of EQ becomes very pivotal in your career?
One of the best things to know is that emotional intelligence is a skill which can be developed. You don't have to be born with it, and no one is perfect at it. It is something that we continuously develop, we embrace, and we continuously develop. So what is emotional intelligence? So emotional intelligence is the art of, when you're in a relationship, conversation, engagement, you're able to put yourself in the shoe of the other person and empathize with what they are going through before you make a decision on what steps you're going to take to address the issue that is being engaged. And when we lack emotional intelligence, we act with a lot of logic and a lot of emotion, raw emotion, and that ordinarily will not work well, because then if you are in an engagement, then it means your counterparty needs to see that you empathize, you understand where they are coming from, and even if you're disagreeing, you are agreeing to disagree, and it is a cordial way of reaching decisions. So this is something, it's a skill we can develop, and we can do training. We can, read a lot about it and practice it in how we deal with the people we deal. And this is very important for professionals. We cannot do with only intelligence quotients. Gone are the days where you're very intelligent and, everyone likes your work. But now it's about how you relate to people. Excellent. And we are also moving now beyond emotional intelligence to cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence now is coming in as a new way of advising professionals, organizations, how do you handle different cultures in the perspectives that we work in. So it is the ability to understand a culture and apply the appropriate context to be able to bring out the best outcomes in the places that we work. So there is also advice that further than developing emotional intelligence, we also have to develop cultural intelligence to be better professionals at what we do.
So, Diana, what are some key responsibilities of a CS in corporate governance, and how do they differ from legal advisory?
Okay, so a corporate secretary is a professional who supports the organization to implement its governance requirements. And traditionally, and even we see this going forward, that organizations are preferring to merge the role of a corporation secretary and the general counsel. Why would this be? So my assumption would be that corporate secretarial has a lot to do with ensuring compliance. And it seems organizations have deemed it fit because of that similarity. It is easier for one individual to handle both roles, because then when you're a corporation secretary, you're basically ensuring compliance. When you're advising the board on their governance roles, their responsibilities, you then need to understand also what the laws say and be able to advise on what the law requires, what are the consequences for not complying, and where a project is being implemented, for example, what are the options that are available, what are the options that can never be exercised. So in this day and age where organizations are trying to manage costs and also try to have leaner workforces, then the trend is looking like organizations prefer to merge the two roles. We have seen this in the public sector, for example. Initially, we would have a corporation secretary and we would have another person in charge of legal. But now I have seen with the new organizational structures being approved by the government, you can see the holder of the office actually holds the two positions as a corporate secretary and head of legal. Moving on to how they compare, the two roles compare. Actually, I would say they complement each other because, for example, compliance. The person in charge of legal ensures the organization legally complies with all requirements, be it the laws, the policies, and all the governing provisions that lead the organization. The company is complying legally, or the organization. The corporate secretary also ensures that the governance standards that are set down are complied with and guides the board on that. And so, for example, if it's a listed entity, we have a code of governance for listed entities issued by the Capital Markets Authority. So the corporate secretary must ensure that the board applies all the standards and principles as stipulated in that code. So you can see those two roles have the same requirement. Coming to advisory, the lawyer advises the organization, the management, together with the board, provides legal advisory on what is the interpretation of the law and what needs to be done to comply with the law. And the same applies to a corporation secretary, because then they would advise on issues to do with ethics, conflict of interest, corporate governance, and all this is advice. And advice is to the organization, is to the management, and is to the board as a corporate entity, not to individuals. So both of them, their client is the entity, and they would advise the entity. The other common factor between the two is the issue of stakeholder management and risk management. So for legal risks have to be managed. Governance risks have to be managed, and stakeholders also have to be managed. So you will find that both roles really complement. And so for anyone who handles the dual role in one, it is very easy to handle both, because then you can see all roles are complementary to each other.
They add value to each other.
Absolutely.
I like that. In your experience, what best practices should organizations adopt to fully integrate and utilize optimal potential of CS as a governance advisor and a legal counsel?
Okay, well, so as I have talked about how the role has evolved. So initially, the secretary's role would be board meeting is coming up, put together the papers, make sure the board members get here, the meeting is done, work on the minutes, ensure they have something to eat. But now the secretary adds value to how the organization does what they do. For example, ESG, environmental, social, and governance requirements have now come up under corporate governance. Who is the custodian of ESG? Because the board is the one that needs to tell stakeholders how they are incorporating ESG in their day-to-day running of affairs. So the corporation secretary now is the person who will be able to do that on behalf of the organization. So what the organization needs to do is to, first of all, empower this particular function. May it be a directorate, a department, whatever name it goes by. They should be equipped in terms of having the right number of staff so that they have capacity to do what they need to do. They also have need to be facilitated in terms of training to build capacity continually, ensuring that they're up to standard with international best practices. They also have to provide the necessary equipment or facilities, for example, reading materials, like the digital platforms that need to be used for e-board, to manage court cases, and to even manage stakeholders, because stakeholders need to communicate, they need to be given timely information, so organizations can also facilitate that. The third thing is to proactively seek advice. It is not good to be in a situation where the General Counsel Corporation Secretary is left out of business discussions when we are about to get into projects. And then now when there's a problem, now you run and seek a solution. That is a reactive approach. So proactively, let them be on the table when you're discussing projects, business ideas. Get their advice proactively at the onset, so that then any landmines can be addressed at the onset, and make use of that advice at the onset, so that then the projects do not have any issues in case any issues could arise in future. The other one is to make them an ally in terms of not to look at them as this person who just wants to make sure there's compliance. This is the cop who will always, look around us and tell the board that this is not what we have done. But this is an ally. He's a strategic business partner. He's someone who will, advise. He's a person who will resolve issues when they arise, and also give them, the necessary support that they need to be able to do what they can do.
I like that, and I'm going to just spend a bit more time there as I think about it. You've talked about ESG, and I'd like to find out from you, what is the role of collaboration in this industry? Because a lot of these are emerging trends, and a lot of new information keeps on coming up. What has collaboration played for you as a role in your journey?
Okay.
Yeah.
So collaboration is very key, because where we are at globally is collaboration is the new strength for achieving our mandates. We can no longer afford to go it alone as organizations, as professionals. We have to synergize by coming together, partners with mutual interest, and being able to achieve that faster than if we did it on our own. So it is very important to map our stakeholders pursuant to our objectives. What is it we want to achieve? And who are the people who will help us get there faster? So once we are able to map them, and we know what is their power, what is their interest, and how are they able to help us through a collaboration to achieve our objectives faster, then we can enter into collaboration. And collaborations work better, because then it means we are also tweaking our plans to suit those of our partners, and therefore it makes the organization nimble. It makes the organization alive to other environmental nuances that without which we would be working alone in an ivory tower, without understanding what's going on. So in my view, collaboration is very key in ensuring that we achieve our objectives as organizations.
I like that. I like that, because I think it's becoming a common narrative that we're hearing, that some of these things are not taught in school. You learn as you keep on going, but you must work with people.
Yes.
So I'd like to find out from you, there are some young company secretaries who are watching this right now, and you've gone ahead of many, and many look up to you. What are some challenges you faced at the beginning of your career that you would wish that they knew to avoid them now, and also just give them some wisdom in this journey? Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. So it is very interesting, because when I look back, I wish someone had told me my network is my network. So I would go to events and meet people, take cards, take numbers, and that's it. So what I would say, build and develop your network, and it goes beyond simply keeping a number, but following through on relationships and adding value. For example, if I have met, maybe I have met you, and I know that you are in charge of a particular network where I'm able maybe to access professionals who are able to share their experiences and enable me grow as a professional. Then I wouldn't just save your number for the sake of saving the number, but to enhance the narrative, try to understand what you're interested in, and also try to reach out to you at the point of interest. How do I get value from what you're offering, and how do I help you in achieving there's something you might need, you might be looking to achieve, and I am able to assist you with that. And continuously cultivating these relationships. So I have come to realize that it really makes a very big difference when you're able to pick a phone, call someone, and unlock an issue that would have given you a headache. So for young professionals, I would say your network is your network, and work on it just like you'd work on, your exercise, your health, and all those, your eating habits. However you'd work even on your academics, just to keep up the professional networks. It's very important. The second one is there are so many myths that we need to disabuse ourselves of. So I'll give the example of my tenure as the chair of the institute. So the institute has previously been led by, very mature and experienced members of the institute who have mostly been male. And so there has been this stereotype that, maybe those are the people who they understand the profession better, they have experience, yes, they are best qualified. But when I put my bid to be the chair, I was really surprised when I got overwhelming support from the membership. Good. And they were able to elect me as the 15th chairman of the institute, the youngest ever, and the third female chairman of the institute in its history. So what that did, it really broke that stereotype.
Good.
And as a result of that, I can confidently say I saw the number of younger members who, put themselves out to run for council position, the number of ladies who put themselves out to run for council position. This actually increased. Mm-hmm. And I was very happy to see that such a experience can really change people's perspective. Mm-hmm. And what I would say to the young people, do not be tied down by stereotypes. Go into the real and experience it for yourself. Yes. Maybe it is not true. Mm-hmm. The way I was thinking, maybe I have to be a man, an older man, very experienced to be the chair of the institute. But when I tried it, it worked. So do not be afraid. Yeah. Go for it, and the planet will answer you back.
I have to ask you this question. I know that they're just looking at me and saying time is up, but I really have to find out from you, Diana. You having been a leader at that capacity, breaking some stereotypes that I think were assumed, isn't it?
Yes.
What did that do for you in your profession? I think you broke a stereotype for the others. Now they can come up and see that there's a model that can be done. But for you as a professional, what did that do for you in your career?
Okay, thank you. So the first one I would say is my sphere of influence definitely increased, because then by being able to lead a whole professional association, it means you are a thought leader. Yes. You are giving direction. You are the vision bearer. And I think that helped me also to deal with any imposter syndrome that may have lacked anywhere within me. And it also helped me to step up my conviction, because then it means for you to lead in that capacity, you have to have, a self-conviction of your judgment that this is what I'm thinking. Is it really true? And you have to be sure that it is true and believe in yourself and go with it. And then lastly, it also made me very empathetic, because then when you're leading people, it is about what's in it for them. And you have to be very sensitive to that. Yeah. What's in it for them? Yeah. So that even as you make decisions, you listen to issues, proposals that are being made, you have to look at them from the perspective of what does it mean to them. And I think those have really grown me personally. And I think also for the Institute, it was a very good time. We were able to also turn around the Institute. I can see now the Counsel and my chairman currently, they are doing a very good job at the Institute. And I'm very grateful to have been part of the team that laid the foundation to where the Institute is going now.
Well done, well done, well done. And thank you for all the ladies that have seen it. Yeah, you've done such a great job. We've come to the unfortunate end of this conversation. I could talk to Diana for so long. She has such a wealth of wisdom. And I'm very grateful for you coming. This has been a great conversation with Diana Sawe Tanui on the weekly Governance Voices. Be sure to watch it, share your insight, and let us know what spoke to you the most. Have a great day.